There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
AUDIOTEC Fischer has been on the rampage, delivering us all the goods, both in integrated DSP amplifiers and OEM integration solutions. And most recently, they've released version 5 of their PC Tool software. On today's episode, we've got a special treat as well. We've got the CEO himself, Julian Fischer, who'll be joining us for a quick interview. This is CMA Showcase, presented by SiriusXM, AUDIOTEC Fischer, and it starts now. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to this CMA Showcase presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Now today we're talking about AUDIOTEC Fischer, a brand that really has climbed up into everybody's repertoire, or it seems that way anyhow, with a tremendous offering of products in high-end German engineered and manufactured product. Now recently they unveiled a brand new version of their software, which they call PC Tool, and we're going to find out all about it. From what I understand, we might even have a live demo from the folks over at MSC. But before that, and before we dive in, did I mention that we also have an interview from Julian? That's going to be very interesting. You don't want to miss that. But let's get the scoop on what's going on. I'd like to invite to the show right now our special guest from MSC America. He's their president, Mr. Larry Penn.
Hey, Ben, how are you?
What's going on, Larry?
Just another day in paradise, man.
Another day in paradise indeed. Exciting things happening over at the AUDIOTEC Fischer camp, as we can see. Brand new product, brand new software. I mean, how do you even manage your days? They've just been so busy, right? So busy.
Yeah, it's we're pretty pumped, especially moving on into this year. We got a bunch of new product being launched, and one of the most exciting things is the new PC Tool software, and Chris is going to do a deep dive into that for you today to show you one of the new feature sets of that. But we're really happy that we finally dragged Julian Fischer. He's the CEO of AUDIOTEC Fischer and part of the family-run organization. We drug him out and did an interview with him, you and I together, and it really puts light to how passionate these guys are about building a product, and not only passionate, but they got the brains, they got the gusto, and they're making it happen. So we're super proud to have him on and let you have a look at what we got going on under the hood.
Absolutely. And, having him on is an absolute honor for us as well. It's an international icon in the industry, and he's in Germany. We're over here in North America. We made it happen, and that's what we do here. Now, Larry, you and I, we spent a lot of time going over special features and integration and the multi-channel system setups that and the different solutions that the AUDIOTEC Fischer products provide. But what's under the hood? You mentioned under the hood. What are we going to cover today that's different from every other time we've been on?
Well, we've talked about our system design and how we do things a little differently. And we've talked about our power and how that works. And today we're going to open up the hood. Julian's going to open up the hood and give you a look underneath to explain how these technologies actually work and why we're different than everybody else. And it was impressive to me that we were able to get an explanation from Julian in the time that we did, because trust me, in our phone conversations with him, he can go on forever about what's under the hood. But we're going to give you a little look into the power supply section. We're going to give you a little look into a big look into our DSP later on, because that's really what separates us from the crowd as far as how our DSP software is used. And that's really where we're going.
Well, this is exciting stuff. Two-parter for this show. We'll talk to the CEO, hear from the horse's mouth a little bit of what's going on in the engineering side of things, and what makes the AUDIOTEC Fischer amplifiers different. And as you promised this, and now you can't take it away, we're going to do some type of demo workshop type thing about how this whole thing works, right, for the DSP tuning side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
All right.
the new TuneEQ, is we're going to show you how that actually works and what's going on with that.
Amazing. So without further ado, we had the chance to sit down with Julian, like Larry mentioned, and kind of dig into his mind and get some answers to find out what is ticking at the AUDIOTEC Fischer camp. Here's what he had to say. So earlier in the week, we got a chance to connect with the managing director himself, the man at AUDIOTEC Fischer, straight in Germany. And he took the time to sit down with us. And I'm happy to say that we have him in the studio with us today, so we can really get behind the science and the whole philosophy behind the AUDIOTEC Fischer brand. So without further ado, I'd like to invite to the studio Mr. Julian Fischer, who is the managing director at AUDIOTEC Fischer. Hey,
Hi,
Julian.
Ben.
How are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm very happy to have you on the show. It's been a long time coming. We've spent a lot of great sessions talking about your brand and your product with the folks at MSC, and how well it is received in North America. So first of all, thank you for taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule, and you're in Germany right now, are you not?
Yeah, correct. We have
Fantastic.
afternoon.
Well, I've been waiting to a long time to ask you this first question, Julian. And really, we want to know about a little bit of the company history. Obviously, your name is in the name of the company as well. And can you share with us a little bit about the culture that exists at AUDIOTEC Fischer?
For sure. Our company was founded in 1990 from my parents. And since then, our passion is to bring high-end audio to the car audio industry. My dad came from the home audio industry and did home audio before for 10 years. And in the 90s, he figured out that there was a lack of high-end audio systems for cars. So, since then we started to develop the absolute highest possible sound systems for cars. Then in 1997 we brought out our first Brex amplifier, which went around the world, created a lot of attention, and shortly after we founded our Helix brand to create this technology in a way more affordable range. And in 2010 I joined the company, and then the analog technology, which was until that time the main technology we were working in, has changed to the digital technology we are nowadays using in most of all our products, except most of the Brex stuff, which is still the Heinz babies.
Now, is this, to this day, from the beginning, still a family-run operation?
Yes. I'm the second generation. Became CEO in 2015, including shareholder. And today I'm managing the whole company in second generation. Heinz is retired since this year, for sure. He never completely left the company. And
I'm sure he doesn't stay away too far.
No.
So you have this incredible business and technology firm right there in Germany that you guys have obviously had a huge evolution. I mean, I remember back in the day, Brax, those capacitors. I was like,
Exactly.
One day if I could afford one of those. Of course, I never end up affording them, but I always wanted to have one. But I remember those for sure. And it's amazing to see the evolution of the products and the brands over the years. So let's fast forward now. Some Canadian guy decides one day to knock on your door and introduce himself. His name was Larry Penn a couple years back. And all of a sudden, now you have a footprint in North America with the distribution firm. Tell us about that relationship with MSC America.
yeah, the relationship is just phenomenal. It was extremely difficult for us in the past to find the right partners in the US market, as our mentality, passion, and the technology we are using is quite different from the local brands. So with Larry, Chris, Jason, and the whole team, we found just partners who were amazing in a way of understanding our passion, philosophy, but also the technology. Today, it's extremely important that the technology transfer from our company to our distributors works as best as possible, and we need to stay connected as close as possible together. So with Chris, Larry, and Jason, it's just phenomenal because we are in yeah, nearly daily contact to really get all the ideas, distribution concepts, but especially the technology on the software and hardware side into the North American market. And this is absolutely valuable.
Well, I'll tell you what, I do believe you found the right partner. The MSC has certainly done things their own way, and it's certainly starting to bear fruit. They have a really following that's starting to grow, and you're right. You know, the AUDIOTEC Fischer brand, from what I've sat in on many of these sessions and learned a lot about your products and your technologies, and you have your own way of doing things, and we hope to kind of explore those unique technologies and features that you guys have developed. But to do so, why don't we bring in these guys that we're talking about here, Larry and Chris, so that they can join our conversation. How about that?
Cool.
All right, so let's get to MSC. Let's go ahead and get our good friends over there, both in Mr. Larry Penn and Chris Van Rye. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the conversation here today.
I'm still coming off that pedestal that Julian set up for us. That's thank you very much.
You can slip him that $20 American bill.
Yeah, the check's in the mail.
So here's the team. We've got Team North America. We've got Team Europe right here. I mean, I've got some questions for you, and this is the perfect opportunity for me to ask them, because we'll get to hear from the horse's mouth, as the saying goes, but also I'd like to get some North American, perspective on some of this stuff and why that's relevant to our market. Is that fair to say? All right.
Absolutely.
Obviously, Julian, there's a lot of thought that goes into everything that you guys do. You guys do things in a unique way, especially when it comes to the type of power concepts that you're using and how you optimize them for an in-car experience. What else are you doing to kind of optimize power or equipment within this automotive environment?
Yeah, the power supply is usually 70% of the amplifier's quality. So a good power supply just determines if the amplifier is a good amplifier or a bad amplifier. And for sure, there are already really good power supply concepts in the market for 30 years, like typical unregulated push-pull power supplies. But the today modern car audio deserves technologies which are more advanced than these older technologies. We have cars with dynamically controlled alternators where the voltage in the car fluctuates instantly between 12 and 16 volts roughly dynamically. So there's not the case anymore that we have stable supply voltages from the battery and the alternator like 13.8 or 14.4 volts. And beside this, we have completely different approaches in the modern cars where we need to handle a lot more events than in the past, like a start-stop event, like a jump-start event when the cars get chipped with the amplifier and needs to be restarted somewhere else. All these events can be handled only barely with push-pull power supply. So we decided already roughly 10 years ago to go another route. Our power supplies are fully regulated step-up converters, which only provide a positive voltage, but can handle a wide voltage input range, and they are stabilizing the output, which means that our voltage, our power supplies is completely independent from the input voltage. So whether the power supply gets 10 volts, 12 volts, 14 volts, or 16 volts, the output of our power supplies is always stable. And this is a very, very typical standard in the automotive industry. So in modern cars, you cannot find any OEM product or OEM device anymore which is still using push-pull power supplies. Today, the modern cars are all equipped with modern technology, and the step-up converters is just the latest generation of power supplies, how we can build them. The efficiency is phenomenal. We can build power supplies with up to an efficiency of 96 to 98% in half to a quarter of the size of a typical push-pull power supply. So we are reducing heat, we are reducing size, and maximizing efficiency.
Julian, I heard three things there. I'm going to go to Larry on this. I heard, stable voltage output. I heard modernizing and keeping up with what the OEMs are putting in their vehicles, right? And for me, those things also mean a consistent, repeatable performance if you can control those kind of factors in that environment. I'd like to hear, did I get that right? And what comments do you have to that? That's to Larry. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, Ben. We don't dive deep a lot of times on the shows that we've been on with you as far as some of the important design philosophies, and we don't spend a lot of time talking about those kind of things. But Julian's made some very good points in terms of the importance of the I don't want to say a new power supply design because we've been using it for 10 years, but the importance of using a regulated power supply, as Julian stated, to keep things stable within the amplifier, because today's cars aren't the 1980s Camaro, where it's just the battery and the alternator and easily predictable of what's going on. With electric cars and start-stop cars, and Tesla now using 17 and a half to 18 volt charging system on the low current side, we can do some things with that step-up converter that is simply not possible with a typical push-pull design.
Analog to digital, record player to CD. That's kind of the difference I'm hearing here. Chris, I want to shift the conversation to you. You and I have had a lot of opportunity to discuss different system designs based on the different amplifiers that AUDIOTEC Fischer offers. But there's been industry buzz about the concepts that you guys do, because you guys do it a little bit different, I would say, than everybody else. It has a lot to do with the multi-channel amplifiers, but they're not bridgeable. So why did you choose to go that route? Was it purposeful, and what's the story behind that?
Yeah, I mean, as Julian touched on, there's a lot of different technologies that we're using in there, and all of them have aspects that are going to control other situations in the amplifier designs. And when we look at designing audio systems, we're not just looking at picking this amplifier off the shelf and that speaker and that subwoofer and just stick it all together and see what happens. There's a theory and a flow to making sure that you are designing a complete audio system, not just a bunch of components. So that's the kind of mentality when we're looking at these things. I'll let Julian kind of dive a little deeper into how they came to these decisions and why they chose to build what they did. But the big key is it's an audio system, not just a selection of components.
Yeah, Julian, could you speak to that a little bit deeper, please?
Yeah, so the design or the goal for our product, especially all the modern digital products, was to really get the most power in the smallest compact size, and competing with modern premium car audio systems where they easily put 20 to 40 channels in chassis, which are extremely small, and usually this is the space we get to install our aftermarket product. So our goal was to really reduce size as best as possible, but still providing the best possible audio quality. And this combination made it just necessary to use this power supply technology in combination with super modern compact IC amplifiers to get the maximum power out of a small chassis without creating too much heat, and for sure fulfilling all automotive requirements. As we are an ISO certified company, and supplying directly to the automotive industry like Volkswagen and other customers, we have a bunch of rules and regulations we need to fulfill for the OEM section. And we are thinking, why not doing this for the aftermarket as well? We know the rules, we know the specifications, but we need to bring this technology also to the aftermarket industry, that we can provide the same stable, trouble-free products to our industry, which are not consuming more space, which covering the full temperature range, and which are providing a lot of power in small sizes. And yeah, the result was that the amplifier technology we have chosen is not bridgeable because it's already internally bridged. But on the other side, it has usually double to triple as much power than other amplification systems in that size. And we are keeping up the amplification power independent from the input voltage. So if our amplifier is driven with an input voltage of 12 volts or 14.4 volts, the output power of the amplifier is the same. So if we are rating it with 75 watts, you're getting 75 watts at 12 volt, 14 volt, and 16 volt. If we have a typical amplifier in the market, which is rated at 60 watts RMS at 14.4 volts, it has 30% less power, maximum power, at 12 volts, which is a typical thing which happens in my BMW every day, even on a very short trip. The BMW alternator decides by an intelligent algorithm if it provides more voltage or if my car runs on the battery voltage.
That is a very complex way of managing power. From what I understand, it's way too smart for me to understand. So I'm going to lean on Larry to help me understand what that all means in real time as far as power and power ratings.
Yeah, what I want to get to with that is we're at 75 watts per channel, and I'll let Julian dive in a little deeper. But that's all channels driven at 75 watts per channel.
That's what I was getting out of it. Okay.
Yeah, in our V12, it's 75 watts, all channels driven. But going back just a couple steps, Julian gave a technical explanation, and to put that into everyday life on the car audio sales floor is that, as Chris alluded to, it's understanding how system design works. When car factories go to build a car, they don't just grab a bunch of stuff and go, yeah, this looks good, let's put this here and this here. Oh, we need to bridge this channel because we're not going to use that subwoofer because we don't have it in stock, we're going to use this subwoofer. Our whole concept that we work with our dealers to understand is you take a V12 and you use a pair of the V12 channels on a dual 2-ohm subwoofer. Those outputs in the right conditions can output 160 watts per channel. So now you've got 320 watts to a nice little dual 2-ohm 10-inch to one sub, which is plenty. And you can use 4 channels for those subs and now have 640 watts to a pair of 10s, as we do in our systems by MSC F-150 design. And I tell you, with the limited amount of hair I have left, it still moves that around when I jump in the truck every day. I
need a slow-mo video of that, Chris. Make that happen, please. No, and that's the whole point here. I mean, obviously, Julian, you guys are such a technology firm as you are a car audio manufacturer. This is the most, I'm going to go on the record, this is the most amount of detail I've ever had, or an explanation of, specific to power management technology and why you've made the decisions you have with the components that you have to have the end result and to provide the purpose. And that is to be efficient, to have consistent performance based on the always changing input of power from the vehicle. So therefore, pretty darn modern and maximized system for an automotive environment. That's kind of the way I see what you've just brilliantly described, which I could never do. Just shifting gears real quick. Obviously, another big thing that we're talking about on this show was the recent launch of the PC Tool 5. Lots of new features. Chris will obviously be going through a couple of those key ones so that dealers understand what the new benefits I'm going to guess there's probably things that are even easier. I don't know how that's possible, but probably even easier to do than before. What drove you, Julian, to, again, push towards this type of platform moving forward as a new avenue for software?
Yeah, our software is already in development. We are developing the software in-house, and we're doing this for already 10 years. And every 3 years, roughly, we have the decision to make a major release and a new big update, because the way our dealer base and customer base is using our products shift from time to time, because the dealers are getting more knowledge. They have more complicated cars in their base they need to handle. So we need to bring out more functionality as well as more features into the software. But as we are already providing a software for 10 years, for us, one of the key features is that we don't want to touch the general user interface, because we are training and teaching a lot of people around the world for 10 years how to use this software. And if we would completely mess up their daily workflow, they need to learn a new software from the beginning. And so our approach is always to bring in all the latest functionality, the most modern tuning systems, automatisms to help and support the customer to tune the car without messing up the software and releasing a new software every 3 years, because it's just for the dealers who work with the software every single day, extremely difficult to always learn a new software, a new workflow, because the software alone is not creating the workflow, but the whole process, the measurement concept, the measurement hardware they need to buy, the software. And we are always trying to put this into one software, independent of the brand. So our Match brand, our Helix brand, and our Brex brand are all using the same software, so that everything can be controlled with the same idea, the same workflow. For sure, different functionalities in detail, different adjustment ranges, but the general workflow is the same. And with DSP PC Tool 5, we adapted this once again to the modern cars we have in the base, and we need to install audio into. So we developed a new algorithm called TuneEQ, which helps to utilize the amount of equalizer bands we have in our DSPs to use them to really precisely tune a car audio system without the need to do it completely manually, which really takes a long time compared to intelligent automatisms.
All right. Well, Chris, first of all, great news for dealers tuning into this. You don't have to learn a brand new interface. It's, according to Julian, it's the same similar interface that you're familiar with, that you've been trained on. But I'll give Chris an opportunity to kind of touch on a couple of key things about this new software and what Julian just said.
Yeah, I mean, the mentality that AUDIOTEC Fischer has had with this stuff of keeping this consistent flow is what drives the efficiencies. It's, a shop that's getting, especially somebody who's new getting into DSP technologies, where tuning a car is a challenge in itself. Even opening the software and kind of getting their bearings and figuring out where they're going really brings up a lot of challenges. So creating a way to get into this stuff, get these things set up effectively, repeatably is the other big benefit in there too, as it doesn't matter if you've got the match up 7 or an up 10 in an OEM integration type package. If you're doing a fully active over-the-top 14 channel system based off of V12, if you're doing that top tier Brax package, the process you're going to go through, the stuff you're going to do to get the end results you're looking for is the same, and PC Tool 5 has continued on that. But what they've done is they've evolved a couple of really significant key features. Some of them seem small up front when you first kind of see what's going on, but how it impacts the efficiency and letting you navigate through has a huge impact. And as Julian touched on a little bit, the TuneEQ algorithm that they've put together is like nothing else out there. A lot of companies are looking to fancy tooling, and you've got RTAs on the bench and mic arrays and all this kind of stuff, and big tools, big toolboxes, thousands of dollars tied up. And in most cases, a lot of the industry isn't ready for that kind of stuff. And there's some guys that are going to be able to take advantage and really benefit from that stuff. Our system works with just a simple USB mic. Everything else is built into our software. It's built into the DSP itself. So you're not going to a bunch of extra bits and pieces. You're able to get killer end results quickly, repeatably, efficiently, and without tying up a ton of cash and a ton of time in your day-to-day bay life.
Check. Well said, Chris.
Ben, one thing I wanted to add to that is, let's not forget that our DSP technology and the feature sets within our DSP, we're talking about the automated tuning process, which is proprietary to us, and the algorithms that this company has created in the TuneEQ and Real Center and the bass restoration circuit and all the rest of it are next level stuff, making, as Chris said, the bay life, the everyday bay life, super easy and super efficient. But let's not for 1 minute think that if you want to jump out with the massive microphone arrays and any other acoustic measurement equipment, that you can't manually adjust anything that you want to manually adjust at any level. You can still do with our DSPs. So we're not saying we're just a simplified DSP. Absolutely opposite of that. We are super high tech with all the things that we can do in there. Plus we've given, as Chris has just explained, repeatable, profitable, easy way to get things done, put a smile on a client's face and put money in the cash register and keep everybody happy. And it doesn't come back. That's the other big thing with the ISO certification of the company and the way they build stuff. And we've toured the factory, we've seen it ourselves. It just doesn't come back. It doesn't fail. And that's two of the big things that we get back from our customers. Chris and I spend a lot of time, I'm lying. Chris spends a lot of time on the
What do you mean?
the live computer work that we do with our dealers. And it's funny, when we put on a new dealer and we're getting ready to train them, they are expecting something massively complicated and hard to get their head around. And then we get online with them and we say, here it is. Let's walk through this step by step together. And they, well, it's that easy. The car sounds amazing. And that's what DSP Tools over 10 years does. And it's so cool. Julian's always pretty low key about this stuff, but I've seen a lot of different factories that I've worked with and been involved with. And this is the only factory where I've gone into one room and there's the analog amplifier guy, there's the digital guy, and there's the software guy, and they're all in the same room together. So they can't, it's not blaming the third-party software guy for doing something wrong, because the third-party software guy happens to be on our payroll.
Right there. So if there's ever a problem, it's an arm wrestle or a coin toss.
Yes, yes.
Right? I get it.
Julian comes in and goes, what's going on? Yeah. Because I just phoned him and said, hey, this doesn't work.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about, making sure that our dealers' voices in North America transfer to us, and what we have transfers to Julian, as he's mentioned. And I've worked with a lot of good companies, as you know, and this is, as far as the technology side and the communication side, such a valuable relationship.
Julian, I don't know what else there is to talk about. Here's your distributors in North America. They obviously know what they're talking about. They have a clear vision, a clear strategy about communicating the technology, the benefits, and the training to the customers. I'm going to leave you, Julian, with any last message you have. We've covered a lot of great things today, including your company, your brand, your culture, some of your technology. What would you like to say to our North American potential AUDIOTEC Fischer customers?
I'm absolutely happy if everyone really experience one of our products, because they are extremely powerful and definitely always the right selection, the option to choose. I'm very thankful, and we will everything in our future to provide the best service and the latest technology to our industry.
Amazing. And on that note, I want to take this time and opportunity to thank you, Julian, for taking the time out of your busy schedule and joining us on this CMA session. Have a great day.
Thank you too, Ben.
I'll tell you what, Larry, it was an absolute blast being able to speak with somebody of that caliber who's been in the business and a legacy at that. I mean, what do you have to say? I mean, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, Julian's when you get to see him at a show and spend some time with him, he's a real good guy and grew up around amplifiers, and like you said, his dad's been home audio guy forever. He played in a rock band, blues band, like the whole family's about music. So hopefully what I feel about the company was transferred to you through Julian. So
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I know
we're
I
happy.
learned a lot. Let's move on to the next exciting portion of this show. We're going to do a little demo, I believe. And I mean, let's bring in some heavy guns. Why don't we bring in the guy that kind of does the training and knows what he's talking about when it comes to tuning. I'd like to invite to the studio the specialty dealer development specialist at MSC. We know him as Chris Van Rye. What's going on, Mr. Chris?
Hey,
How's
Ben,
it
how are
going,
you?
sir? Oh, I'm doing really well. First of all, I'll give you an opportunity as well, like I did Larry. I mean, that was a pretty wicked interview that we had with Julian. What was your takeaway from that?
I mean, anytime you get to sit down and talk to somebody like that who is, like Larry said, not just passionate, but highly educated on the topic, this company is so integrated from top to bottom. The Fischers are a part of engineering and design and marketing and everything. So when you get a chance to sit down with guys that really understand these technologies and what they're building and why they're building it and all of that kind of stuff, there's nothing else like it. You can just sit and listen to him for hours and hours and hours and try and pick up the pieces of your brain when it's all said and done.
No, yeah, no doubt that I had some pieces of brain all over the place. I had to clean up afterwards. Okay, we're switching gears. We're talking about PC Tool version 5. Larry, what is the history of said software?
Well, one of the most important things for us when we're educating dealers on how to use our stuff is that it's easy, and not easy in the fact that it's like an easy bake oven, but it's easy to understand the workflow of what's going on. So we've had this same DSP tool software, PC tool software now for over 10 years. So we can go back to our legacy products that aren't even around anymore, and run PC Tool with them. So if you've got a client that's had an amplifier, one of our integrated amplifiers for 6-7 years, you're still able to plug into it and not have to scratch your head and go, oh man, what was that about? What software do I got to use? How did that work again? What's the workflow? How do I get the maximum out of it? It's just the same thing that we're going to introduce the new PC Tool version 5 with Chris today, except this is now PC Tool on steroids. So again, same, it's a new screen, but it's a familiar screen. The buttons are the same, everything works the same. So all those technicians that have spent hours and hours and dedicated their time to learn our software, we're giving back to them by saying, thanks for that. We didn't introduce anything new. It's still the same. Just a couple new little ingredients that are going to make your job better, speedier, and more predictable every time you do it.
Okay, so Chris, in that interview with Julian, you covered a couple key features that version 5 offers. So what are we going to learn today that's different from those features, or what are we doing? Some type of demo, or what's the deal?
Yeah, there's lots of little things that have been evolved with any evolution. They're going to start to make those little tweaks, things they've wanted to change on the fly coming into it. When we see these kinds of platform changes, we start to see a lot more of those little changes influence into how everything works and how everything flows from there. But for there to really justify a platform change of this magnitude, where we're reevaluating the system from the ground up, albeit in a way that keeps it all familiar, but there's got to be something that really triggers that. And that is the number one thing that is going to excite the most people. It's going to make the biggest improvements in audio systems. And that's what we're going to be touching on today here.
All right. Well, I mean, I see you're not in your usual position or background. You got a vehicle that's clearly on with the trunk open. Can you set us up for what we're about to experience here?
Yeah, so what we're going to be playing with here is, this is our C63 AMG 2021. We had built this one for the MasterTech Expo back at the beginning of March. So this is a Brax speaker system through here, matrix tweeter and 3-inch all the way through the cabin. We've used a set of the match 8-inch firewall bass drivers up in the front end, and then we've got our Helix K10 Slim system in the back here. You can actually see the enclosure equalizer, floating, down firing, 210s vented. So lots of get up and go. And then we've used a trio of the Helix M series amplifiers to power this whole system. So there's a ton of horsepower behind this. But to take that, rein it in, and point it all in the direction that we need it to, PC Tool 5 becomes a hugely integral part of making this magic happen. And that's now where we're going to go, is we're going to actually take this car here, and we're going to run through the brand new TuneEQ system in this car. So the big difference, we've had the set EQ function for quite a few years now, that allowed technicians to get in and take basic measurements off the car and use our software to automatically set and calibrate those equalizations. 30 bands across each channel, whether you want to do a global equalization design, or if you want to do it channel by channel by channel and get really deep and cut to the absolute core of what's possible in here. Well, now we've taken that and shifted that into the next generation, is we've moved from a graphic equalizer process into a fully automated parametric program. So big difference there for the guys that aren't familiar with these technologies. Graphic equalizers always have a more or less fixed frequency, especially in our world in the car audio realm. We're typically dealing with 1/3 octave frequencies across the board. We always have a fixed Q, which means the number of frequencies around that center. How much of an impact are we having on that? Those were set. We didn't have control over that. Now, when we go to the parametric side, we have full control. You can absolutely tailor every single band of equalization along the way. So now we can actually take all of those bands and use any one of them in any format we'd like to make sure that we're getting the best end results. The trick, though, is what normally would have taken hours and hours and hours, and realistically, without computer software, been impossible to do by hand and as a single person. Now our PC tool has the ability to take those measurements, the same measurements that you've been providing up till this point, but now run millions of calculations and simulations on the fly. So now we can actually create these filters instantaneously in just a handful of seconds and get the exact target curve that we're looking for with better accuracy and faster than ever before.
Well, that just sounds a whole lot more better to me.
More better is the focus of the day.
More better is good stuff. You know, I've heard comments of, you know, different types of software from different brands, you know, certain have limitations. This sounds like you've just put out a whole full-blown suite. And I'm excited to see how simple it is, at the same time, how intricate it could be if you want it to be.
Well, that's the cool part about this whole thing, is it's taken an incredibly complex topic and an incredibly complex process and put it in a way that those of us on the front lines can really get through it quickly and efficiently. But we've talked a lot about it. Let's dive in. Let's actually jump into the car and let's run through this.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, Chris, I'm going to set you up here so that you're good to go. Why don't you go ahead and prepare your screen so that we can get that on? And I guess Larry and I can go away so you can put on the show. Let's do it.
All right, let's go. So here we are plugged into the car with the RTA fired up, getting ready to take these measurements. When we come into this screen, we've had a few things that have changed in here from a simplicity standpoint. One of my favorites is the ability to actually embed the RTA screen right in the menu. So now you still have access without exiting the RTA to changing channels and selecting different things along the way. Gives you better access to the sliders along the bottom for all the equalization options as well. So a little bit more control, a little bit better evolution on that side of things. So a really nice touch there. We've also got the ability to come into our RTA settings menu. Now this gives us a lot more customization as well. Things like what the RTA graph is going to look like. In these cases where we're going to be using the parametric functions, the system automatically defaults to a 1/6 octave RTA as opposed to the 1/3 that it was traditionally used for. We've got the ability to go through and change how long those sweeps are done for, that ear-to-ear microphone method that we use, taking that spatial average of the listening position. So we can adjust that if we want, but the 20-second default gives us lots of time to make sure that there's no anomalies through physically moving the mic or background noises or anything like that. So still a recommended setting to keep it at that 20-second mark. As we move down through here, we've got the ability to actually get into a TuneEQ configuration menu. Now there's two options here. One is the desired deviation. How close do we want this thing to get to the target curve? How much the tighter the deviation is, the more bands it's likely to use to get us there and the more minute changes it's going to make. So depending on the configuration that you're working with, how many channels you're working with, and how deep you're going into the equalization side, you can loosen that up if you'd like to, but that 0.1 is the default setting and it does pretty darn job of getting really close for us. The other side there is it's also got a cap to how much boost the system will try to add into the system for you. 6 dB is a lot of extra energy to add into a particular frequency. It's basically asking 4 times the output, running 4 times the power through a particular band of frequencies. So 6 dB is a lot. That is our default max. In some cases, I may even roll that back to 3, but definitely wouldn't exceed that. By putting that cap on there, it makes sure that the system isn't going to go ahead and try and start stacking bands to fill the hole that might be phase related that can't be cured through equalization. Down at the bottom, we've also got the ability to adjust our reference curves. So from here, we can pre-program custom settings. We can program just a simple flat response, or we can use the AUDIOTEC Fischer house curve. We also, on the left, have the ability to go through and tailor this ourselves just by moving these sliders and completely customizing what you want to build with it. But in this case today, we're going to come back and we're going to use this set curve that's in place. We're going to take a couple of quick adjustments. You see here at the bottom, we've got our TuneEQ option that we have selected. This opens up these extra menus here. The first is how many bands are we going to use today? We want to use, as this is going to be a global EQ today, we're going to be using bands 3 through 29. The outside ones are left in place for things like tone control on your director or your conductor. The rest of them are up for grabs for us to get this car dialed in. The next one, we're going to see what the actual measured deviation is. So it's going to tell us how far off we are when we run through our first set of sweeps. The next, this is our from band and our to band. We're going to create the window of frequencies that we want to look at in there, just like we've done in the past. So when we look at what we're seeing on the graph, we've got our analyzer started so we can see all of the frequencies in the basic response. I'm going to make a little bit of an adjustment here to get this as close as I can to our target curve. So our mid-range, our high frequency here is beautiful. The mid-range is a little bit all over the map, but the low frequency is pretty close as well. So we're going to center this up as best we can, a little bit below. Ideally, we want more cut from the EQ than boost. So when it comes to it, we want to put a little bit above the line, but not too far because we don't want to kill off a bunch of our output at the same time. We've got that analyzer measurement showing there, evenly spaced around that curve. Now we're going to set that window. So we've got good low frequency extension all the way down here. So I'm going to set this to about 40 hertz on the from side, so the low end of it. On the top end here, we're seeing good all the way up to 12 to 16K. So I'm going to use that measurement all the way up there as well. Now, depending on the installation that you're working with, you may find some cars roll off sooner or later at both the high and low frequency. So you always want to make sure that you're using a window that's relevant to the frequencies that are being reproduced at the listening position in the car. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come over to our start measurement button here. Once we click this button, we're actually going to see our timer jump to 20 seconds and start to count down. In that time, we're going to have Sue in the car going through, taking our measurements through those spatial averaging. We're going to see that show up on our screen in front of us here. This white line is actually showing what's happening in the car in that listening position. As it's creating this average, it's zeroing in on what's actually happening. It's filtering out a bunch of the different phase problems that can arise with a single point microphone measurement and creates a more natural measurement relative to what we're actually hearing in the car. Now that we've got this measurement done, that 20-second timer hits 0, we've got our average. This white line is here. Now the magic happens. This is where AUDIOTEC Fischer has come in. So we're going to see our calculating band 0 of 27. So I'm going to set the calibration up here. I'm going to ask it to do the math for us and figure out how close we can get to this. It's going to tell us how many bands that we are going to need out of the available 27 to get to our target. Some cases it's going to use all, some cases it's not. It's just going to come down to the situation. But I'm going to hit this TuneEQ button right now, and we're going to see this system actually go through. It's going to pop up with a little calculation, and we're going to see that green line show up. That is the curve that it's going to put in to offset the acoustic response. Now I simply hit set EQ. Those changes happen instantaneously, and now we can actually see across the bottom here that all of these frequencies have not only changed the location that they were at, they've moved blue to tell us that we're in parametric mode. So when I click on any one of these, I can actually see that in this particular case, that 295 hertz band, 2.7 dB of gain, so we've added a little extra in there at a Q of 4.6, and every one of these that we look at is going to change. because it's creating all of these unique little shapes, steeper, shallower curves. It's adjusting what's going on around the particular frequencies to create the best possible response. So now we've gone through and given a significantly more advanced measurement, significantly more advanced correction into the file, and taken a substantially less time than we're used to with most of these types of systems, even including our own set EQ, which was pretty efficient to start with right out of the gate. We can also come into this side of things and we can click, if we hit that set measurement button without changing any of the menus, is we actually get a just measure option. So now you'd be able to go through and actually take the measurement after you've done that initial configuration and see exactly how close you've gotten with the system on that side of things. So as you can see, even while taking an extremely complex process and a hugely complex topic, we've been able to really simplify this down and keep this really efficient in the bay and keep these cars turning out better than ever.
Well, Chris, as complicated as it looks if you're not listening to what you're saying, because for me, it looks like a whole bunch of sliding bars and everything, which I can see people can be overwhelmed with. But when I hear you do it and seeing it happen real time, and by the way, shout out to Sue for an incredible microphone job, by the way. I just want to say that.
She is awesome. Did a great job.
That happened so fast. I was like, wait, it's already done. Hold on a second. And it seems like all that anxiety that you could have just went away in one quick motion with how simple that whole process was when you actually got into the actual, process itself. I'm going to go and take on this screen for 1 second here so we can see each other here. All right, there we go. That's what I had to say, Larry. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but that's what I felt.
Yeah, what we wanted to show with that is really after setting all your EQ or all your crossovers and doing your time alignment measurements, which is just measurements and input, we've taken the real complex thing that takes years and years and tons of expensive measurement equipment to do in a manual process, and we've brought that to a simplified, well, you saw it, 10 seconds, 15
real time.
seconds.
So
when it comes to the real world of a retail store where you've just put this in and it's beer o'clock on Friday and you got to roll and the client's got to roll, you now have a simplified process that's going to deliver an outstanding sound very easily and very repeatably. And that equates to a happy customer, which equates to good business. So that's really what it's all about for us.
Question for you, Chris. You mention all the time, I like the way you use this term. What about the additional steps after this tune, salt and pepper, kind of customizing it, enhancing it? How does that work now? Does that change in any way?
Well, that's the really cool thing about this is even the simple process that we just looked at, doing the full global equalization of the entire car, we can scale this whole same concept and this same process just like we always have. If you want to get into a deeper dive with this and again escalate and continue to deliver better and better cars, we can take that global EQ, go one step further and tune this car in rows. Do the front row, do the back row, center on its own because it's such a unique installation, and then do the entire system just to make sure that everything is combining acoustically together. If you want to go deeper, we can go in channel pairs, which is what we like to do. Just your tweeters, just your mid-range, just your mid-bass, and so on all the way through the line. We've got lots of guys out there that will go through and do individual channels, tweeter by tweeter, by mid, and all the way down the line there. This process, the steps you just saw, are exactly the same as you run through all of that stuff. You're just doing more increments of it as opposed to different things. That same thing can be zeroed in on just the bandwidth of your tweeter and measured, have that parametric equalizer put in place, and then you move on to the next. So whichever route you choose to go, you're going to be in killer shape from that standpoint. But now we get to go even one step further with some of the really cool algorithms that AUDIOTEC Fischer builds. The rest of the DSP technology, I mean, equalization is one thing, but it's kind of one of the standards when it comes to DSP stuff. But it's not the limit by any stretch of the imagination. From there, we get to go into our FX tab. All of our ACO devices, which is about 85–90% of the products that we build, all have another selection of features added in there to help enhance and put those finishing touches on that system. Things like our real center algorithm, which allows us to create an up-mixed center channel. Take just a left and right stereo signal, compare the two together, and play through a center speaker only what is completely unique between left and right. So now that center channel is only driving what is truly in the center of the soundstage. That's an algorithm that we've developed specifically for the car. It was built in-house by our team in Germany, and we've had really, really good success creating a more immersive audio experience. If you've got somebody who's looking to include both front seats in there and create that two-seat type of application, you've got a killer solution there to get into. And that's even over and above things like phase EQ and all pass filters that we have built into these things, and all the other toys on that end. The other aspect that we do a ton of is our augmented bass processing, things that allow us to go through and actually enhance the low frequency extension and the low frequency experience based on how the client is using it. Give him more low end at low volume when he's less sensitive to hearing that, without blowing out the top end and starting to run the risk of doing damage to speakers and reliability of that brand new audio system that he just invested in. So there's lots of little things, even with these automatic EQ processes. While we go through and we can hit that target curve and create exactly what you've asked, if you get in there and find you still want a little bit more personalization, you want to tailor it to this particular client, all of this stuff is left wide open for the tuner to go in and make any customizations and adjustments over and above what's already been done. So even if you are an advanced tuner with a ton of experience and you've got the little things that you like to do your way, no problem. Use these tools to get into the ballpark, to get you to that 90% mark, and then use the rest of your time to go through and dial it in. And instead of spending hours and hours or days and days in some cases for some tuners out there, you can get the results that you're looking for faster than ever.
Great segue to what I wanted to ask Larry from what he pointed out before. You talk about this streamlined process. Chris has now extended that to say, hey, yeah, it might be a streamlined process, guys, but hold on, we'll get you 90% there. The other 10%, man, you could do all the sound pepper that you want, either with the algorithms or custom, whatever you want. Basically, it's really your choice. But for the average retailer, dealer, he's starting to do more DSP stuff. That's the trends that we see. More and more dealers, we hear it. We will not put a system out the door without a DSP. What does this process, the streamlined process, mean from them for business, from a business perspective?
It really improves efficiency and really shop morale, because now anybody in the shop, even the rookie guy, can turn out a car that sounds really damn good, and it gets everybody excited, including the end use client, which turns into dollars. And if you can do that repeatably, and more importantly, we all know as shop owners and managers, it's not real easy to find experienced techs that not only know how to do the fitment of the product, but now we're asking them to be an acoustic genius. And now we've narrowed the band of available people to a very, very small, finite set of people. This system allows the rookie guy to deliver a car that sounds pretty darn good. So just it's increased efficiency in the shop.
I'm going to give you my 2 cents. Not that you asked for it, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. So I talk to a lot of retailers, right? As you know, and what you nailed it. Like getting new technicians or hiring or finding techs right now is like mission impossible. I mean, that's a whole other ball of wax that we're going to get into, but that is the truth. That is what's happening right now. Yeah. And why I'm saying that is, although sound systems, OEM integration, DSP, all this stuff seems to be getting more complicated. And then you'll have a resource, which is technicians, which is a pool that seems to be non-existent at this point. Knowing that there are brands like this that are putting in that effort to streamline the process, to make things easier, so that you said rookie, I like the term junior guy in the shop, that they can get in on it and they could be part of the team and part of the process and part of the money-making process, right? These are all things that are plus, plus, plus. For me, though, product and software, that's 2/3, I would say, of the formula. The other third, which I want to commend you guys on because we've seen it, you've talked about it, I've heard about it, is the training and the support. Because it's great that products have great features. It's great that softwares have great features. But if there's no support system there, or a classroom or a training seminar or any of those type of tools that you guys are providing for dealers, then there certainly would be missing a large piece of that pie. So that's what I see. Larry?
Well, we're glad you came up with the training part, because although the software and the hardware is making it very easy to do, we still need that base of knowledge of what's happening, why it's happening, and our tools can fix that. PC tool can fix that. But now, why is that happening? So we have a training session that we do right now that is specific to DSP. That's a two-day deal where we're bringing people into our Arizona office or into our Calgary office, and we run through A to Z as far as understanding what the customer is looking for, how to sell the DSP on the sales floor, how to get the DSP in the car and set it up, how to do the measurements to find out whether we've got a complex OEM integration or whether we can use a preamp module or whatever, how to tune it, measurements of, and so we can explain what's going on, and then show the ease of which PC tool can fix it all. So we will continue with those courses throughout the balance of 2022. And those of you who are interested, there are dealers of ours that want to attend that training. Reach out either to our US office if you're in the US, or our Canadian office, and we can try and get you scheduled into that event. Small group of people, 10 to 12 guys over 2 days, and it's on us. So you get your body to our building, and everything else is on us. And I'm sure if you talk to some people that have been to our trainings, we like to have a little bit of fun too. So that's what it's all about.
That's awesome. Chris, I want to thank you for putting this all together, from the demo, and Sue, again, great job on the microphone, and for showing us these new cool features and how easy it is with the new PC Tool 5. So thanks so much, Chris.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ben.
Take care. Larry, let's just review. So, we had Julian at the top of the show. I didn't get a chance to ask you, what was your favorite takeaway from what he had to say?
Just to understand how our stuff differs and how we are looking at the future instead of still designing things with older technology. Let's put it that way. We're looking at how the OEMs are doing things because we're building in the OEM world. We understand the vehicle's acoustics, and when we put that all together to offer that to our retail partners, to have them understand how that all comes together and everything is the important aspect of how I saw Julian. And that's what the company's forward thinking is vehicle integration and building products that actually work in the cars and fit in the cars.
We've had the opportunity to talk about some new product in car audio. We did that cool session about Helix. We've had Julian on to talk to us a little bit about the philosophy, the engineering, and the design behind the power supplies and the amplifiers. Now we just had Chris do a full demo on the new PC Tool 5. Lots more to talk about, but what is your final message that you have for dealers who are tuning in and stuck to us through this one? Because if they're still here watching, they're pretty interested.
Give us a call. We'd love to talk to everybody, show you our business case as well as the products and the software that we've just gone over, and open the robe and show you what's going on behind the doors of MSC.
If you want more information on the products, check out audiotech-fischer.com. But if you want to become a dealer, it doesn't matter if you're in Canada or the US, make sure you get a hold of msc-america.com. There are operators standing by to take your order as we speak. No, that's not how it works. You contact them, and they'll put one of the representatives with you, and figure out your business, and I'm sure take care of you from there. Right, Larry?
You betcha.
All right. Can't thank you enough. That was an awesome presentation. This is a good one, man. Thank you to your entire team at MSC for putting this together. Thank you to Julian, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Take care, man.
Take care, Larry. That was Larry Penn, president of MSC Mobile Solutions of Canada, or MSC America. Many different hats he wears. At the end of the day, they are the North American exclusive distributor for AUDIOTEC Fischer products. I hope you guys had a cool takeaway from today. A lot of effort put into everything that was shown today, and it's for you guys, the dealers. I want to remind you to continue tuning in to CMA Networks right through to Wednesday, June 29th. We are going through the mobile audio accessories and video sessions, many different categories, different brands we're going to cover. Tune in every day at 12 p.m. as we go one-on-one. Also, if you haven't already, and shame on you if you haven't, make sure you check out our website, cmanetworks.com. If you like this video and you want to see more videos that we did with MSC, check out their playlist, or search by all the different content by brand, by category, or by trainer. Both Chris and Larry have their own profiles on our website and our platform. Check that out. That's it. This is a CMA showcase presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
topics. I mean, yeah, let's talk about
Stop
today's the day where I'm gonna go
Yo.
topics.
Roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?